She was my maid of honor. She stood at the altar beside me, crying happy tears when I said I do. She gave a speech at my wedding reception, told 200 people I was the best person she'd ever known. And the whole time, she was sleeping with my husband. This is not a movie. This is not a drama series. This is my life, and today I'm telling you every single detail, because you deserve to know what betrayal actually looks like up close. Stay with me, because the part that destroyed me wasn't even the affair. It was something she said when I finally confronted her. And I promise you, nothing could have prepared me for it. Maya and I met in 7th grade. We were assigned lockers next to each other. Hers was number 114. Mine was 115. I remember because she had this tiny mirror stuck inside with a Hello Kitty sticker on it, and I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. For 12 years, she was my person. When my dad had his heart attack, she drove 4 hours through a snowstorm to sit in the hospital waiting room with me. When I got rejected from my dream job, she showed up at my door with ice cream and a terrible movie, and we didn't talk about it. We just sat together. That's the kind of friend she was, or at least, that's who I thought she was. My husband Daniel came into our lives about 4 years ago. He was introduced through a mutual friend at a birthday party. Maya was there that night. She hugged him hello and said, and I remember this specifically, she deserves someone good. Be good to her. We got married 2 years later. Maya was my maid of honor. She helped me pick my dress. She planned my bachelorette. She stood at that altar and looked me in the eye with tears streaming down her face. And I felt so lucky to have a husband who loved me and a best friend who felt like family. I had no idea those two people had already been texting each other for 3 months. The first sign came 8 months into our marriage. Daniel started being distracted, not in an obvious way, not in the way you read about in articles, no lipstick on collars, no late nights at the office. It was quieter than that. He'd be in the middle of a conversation with me and just drift, like he was somewhere else. His phone started going face down on tables. He started going to the gym at odd hours. I told myself I was paranoid. I'd had anxiety my whole life. This was just my brain doing what it always did, making something out of nothing. Then one evening, I was at Maya's apartment for dinner. Just the two of us, like we'd done 100 times before. She went to get wine from the kitchen and her phone lit up on the coffee table. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't suspicious of her, not even slightly. But I saw Daniel's name, and I saw the words, "I miss you already." I sat there for what felt like 10 minutes, but was probably 10 seconds. My ears started ringing. Maya came back into the room, and I looked up at her and I smiled. I smiled because I didn't know what else to do. I went home that night, kissed my husband on the cheek, and lay awake until 4 a.m. staring at the ceiling. The next day, I checked our phone bill. They had been texting every single day for 7 months. Hundreds of messages. Calls late at night when I was asleep in the next room. A pattern so consistent, so deliberate. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a mistake. It was a relationship. A parallel relationship. Running alongside ours, invisible, the entire time. I confronted Daniel first. I sat him down at the kitchen table on a Tuesday morning. Not because I'd planned it, but because I woke up that day and knew I couldn't hold it for 1 more hour. I put the phone bill on the table between us. He didn't deny it immediately. That's the part I'll never forget. Most people, when they're caught, they deny first. Daniel looked at the paper and looked at me and was quiet for almost 30 seconds. Then he said, "It wasn't supposed to get this far." I asked him what that meant. He couldn't tell me. He sat there, the man I had married, the man who had looked at me at that altar and promised, and he had nothing to say. I left the house. I drove to Maya's apartment without calling ahead. She answered the door in a sweatshirt, hair up, coffee in hand, the most normal image in the world. And when she saw my face, I watched the color drain out of hers. I didn't yell. I want you to know that. I didn't scream or throw things. I just looked at her and said, "How long?" She tried to tell me it wasn't what I thought, that it had never been physical, that she loved me and would never hurt me. And then she said the thing that broke something inside me permanently. She said, "You were always so focused on yourself. I just needed someone to actually see me." 12 years. I had driven through rain for her. I had canceled trips for her. I had shown up at midnight when she called crying about nothing and about everything, and she told me I never saw her. I left without saying another word. I didn't trust myself to speak. That was 18 months ago. Daniel and I are no longer together. The divorce was finalized 6 months after that Tuesday morning. It was quiet, as far as divorces go. No fighting over assets, no lawyers screaming at each other. Just two people dismantling a life they had built, piece by piece, in silence. Maya tried to reach out twice. Once through a letter, handwritten, 4 pages. I read the first paragraph and put it in a drawer. I haven't opened it since. The second time was through a mutual friend, asking if I'd be willing to talk. I wasn't. Some people have asked me if I hate them, and the honest answer is, I don't have the energy for hate. What I feel is something more like grief. The kind of grief that doesn't have a funeral, doesn't have a casserole on the doorstep, doesn't have people telling you they're sorry for your loss. Because officially, I didn't lose anything. I'm fine. Everything is fine. Except I lost 12 years of a friendship I thought was real. I lost the version of my marriage I believed in. I lost the ability to look back at my own wedding photos without feeling something complicated and heavy. What I kept, what I'm still keeping, is myself. And slowly, I'm learning that's enough to rebuild from.
If you're watching this and you recognize something in this story, a feeling, a moment, a person, I want you to know you're not crazy. The version of someone you trusted was real. What they did with that trust is on them. Betrayal doesn't mean you were foolish for loving. It means they weren't worthy of it. If this story hit you in a place you weren't expecting, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. We post every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you have a story of your own, leave it in the comments. I read every single one. I'll see you next time.